Hello, today we're going to do a charcoal drawing of our paper airplanes. This is going to be a subtractive process. So what that means is we're first going to fill our picture plane with charcoal. Now there's a couple different kinds of charcoal that we want to discuss. First, we got our charcoal pencils, which come in different hardnesses, but these are going to be hard to erase, so we don't want to start with these. We're going to set these aside. We also have white charcoal pencils. Again, we're setting these aside for now. Then we have our vine charcoal, which is the kind that looks like a stick. We have our compressed charcoal, which looks more like a block. And we have our kneaded erasers that looks like a little piece of clay almost. The one we want to use first is the vine charcoal. This one is going to be the easiest one to erase and give you the most medium gray kind of shades. We're going to fill our whole paper with the vine charcoal. So I'm just going to use the side of the charcoal and spread it all over my paper. A lot of kids like this one because you get nice and dirty at first. Now if you don't like getting dirty, you can always wrap a paper towel around your fingers so you don't get dirty, but I don't mind getting dirty. Now I'll just smudge this in to my paper. And if it's not dark enough, you can always do another layer. I'll do another one to make it a little darker for you guys. Get my edges a little better so that my whole paper is nice and covered. Smudge it in again, and I got a nice medium gray to start with. Now I printed my picture out, but you'll be looking at yours on your computer. I'm going to use my kneaded eraser to put in the light parts of my plane. Now the kneaded eraser, if it gets dirty, you can knead it back and forth. So I pull it apart, put it back together, it gets clean again. The first thing I see is this nice white space along the side of my plane. So I'm going to go from one edge, and mine's at a diagonal, so I'm going to pull it diagonally across and lighten that area back up. Now like I said, if it gets too dirty, it's not lightening it, you just knead it, and then it'll erase more. So I want to get in that basic highlighted shape. I also have a little bit of a highlight right here on mine. So I also want to go back right there. And then that's a little bit light. Not super light, but a little bit. So I'm going to bring that back just a little too. Now I want to go put in some of my darker parts. So again, I'm going to get my vine charcoal and go back in, get that nice and dark in the center of my plane. Then I have a wing back here, so I'm going to angle out right here and come back a little, then straight down. I want to fill that in a little bit darker, but leaving that little line where that highlight was, and smudge it in, smudge. Now if I look at my paper, that's all about the same gray, so I'm going to smudge that whole area. Now I got another medium gray up here, so on this side of my white it's kind of angled, and then come back down, fill that whole space in. Now as I'm looking at this, I notice that this part here is going to be darker than that part next to it. So when I draw this part in, that's going to be kind of my medium, a little bit lighter than this part here. So now it hasn't quite come together, and that's because I don't have the outside shape yet. So when I do my outside shape, you can start with the vine charcoal. I'm going to give it a nice dark background back here. Really get those angles in now. There's a little crease right here. You barely see it. Come on down. Alright, now my background is super dark up here, so here's where my compressed charcoal comes in. That's my super dark charcoal. I'm going to use this to get my super darks. So above my plane on this side is where my super dark is. I'm going to color that in. And then also up to like about here. Now this one doesn't blend as well, but it does fade out a little bit, so I can still use my finger and fade it out. I'll do that to my whole background up here. So now my plane's starting to come together a little more, but it's still not totally done because I don't have a lot of my details and creases in. So that's where my pencils are going to start coming in. So now at the tip of my plane, it's probably hard to see in here, but there's a little bit of bunching going on at the tip. It must have gotten smashed when it was thrown. So I can use my fine charcoal pencil to put in those smaller details like that. So if you have creases or bumps or crumbles in your plane, you might use your pencil to get more linear effects. I also might use my pencil here in this crease to get that really crisp right there. I can fade the pencil a little. It's not going to fade as much as that vine charcoal does, but it will fade out a little bit. So if I want nice crisp edges, I might use my pencils there. And fade it out. Now I can also do that with the white charcoal. So if I have a place that's really white, I want to still make sure I erase as much as I can to really get the paper as light as I can. But if something's still not as crisp as I want it, say like right here, I think is super bright because there's a bit of shine going on. So I might even go in with my white charcoal to get that piece super bright. Now I don't really want this outline here, so I'm going to smudge that out. And I'll just keep working it back and forth, adding more charcoal to the darker areas, erasing more with the kneaded eraser in the lighter areas, until I get my plane exactly how I like it. So, enjoy working on this project!